Capture round one. Capture the objective. Capture the objective.
Hello. Today I'll be covering primatology, what it is, and further insight into the subject. First, we need to define primatology. So, what exactly is it? Primatology is a subfield of biological anthropology studied by behavioral ecologists, sociobiologists, anthropologists, and comparative psychologists. This varying group of researchers all study the same thing, non-human primates, aka apes, monkeys, and other relatives. Primatology is a large part of anthropology, the study of human societies and cultures. But why? Primatology connects to human evolution, behavior, and biology. Studying non-human primates, our closest relatives, provides insight into these topics, answering questions such as how early humans might have behaved and how we evolved to differ from other primates. For example, we can see how this certain monkey right here learned to make a tool for food, compare it to the early tools and behaviors of humans, and apply it to our ancestors from thousands of years ago, the ones that looked like this. Speaking of our ancestors, let's talk about... So, a very long time ago, longer than you'd think, Earth's most famous extinction happened. You know, the one with the big asteroid. After this catastrophic major extinction event, only a few small creatures survived, including the early mammals. These mammals would go on to become every mammal alive today, including, but not limited to, primates. But a question arises, why did a group of mammals turn into primates? What caused all of the modern primates today to become so alike? Before we answer why, we have to know what we're asking about. First of all, primates have a very large brain-to-body ratio. They have binocular stereoscopic vision. Many have opposable thumbs and flexible prehensile hands, and many lack claws, having fingernails instead. Now that we know what primates have, what are the main theories that people have come up with to explain why they have them? The first and most major theory is arboreal theory. The theory proposes that primates evolved in tree-dense areas and developed features to live in these areas. Each of the key features of primates can be explained through this theory. Opposable thumbs were used for climbing and grabbing, which was excellent for mobility. Binocular stereoscopic vision was great for navigating through forests. High depth perception capabilities allowed better navigation between branches. And a large brain-to-body ratio was essential for their processing as they navigated. Despite this theory being extremely widely accepted, I would like to cover two more. The first of which is the visual predation hypothesis. This simple hypothesis, brought up by Matt Carmel, hypothesizes that primates' forward-facing eyes, opposable thumbs, and common inclusion of tails were all used for hunting small prey, mostly insects. This theory is not especially popular, as most modern primates are not insectivores, instead being mostly omnivores or herbivores. In fact, the other popular theory I would like to talk about is the counter-argument for this theory, called the angiosperm primate coevolution hypothesis. Primate ecologist Robert Sussman argued that because the few primates that have a heavily insect-based diet eat bugs off the ground, that predatory primates made more use of their ears instead of their eyes to detect prey, and that most early primate fossils were omnivorous instead of insectivorous, that the earliest primates were probably looking for fruit and flowers of angiosperms. He argued that any mammal looking to access the fruits of angiosperms must possess anatomical traits that allow them to maintain hold on thin branches and avoid falling while reaching for fruits. It's estimated that primates likely evolved their distinct visual traits and extremities in the Paleocene and Eocene eras, when angiosperms were going through a distinct change themselves, evolving to have large, fleshy fruit that would have been attractive to small arboreal mammals. Because of these simultaneous evolutionary changes, Sussman argued that just as primates evolved efficient fruit foraging traits, angiosperms were evolving fruit that would have been more attractive to primates, having a mutually beneficial relationship as they had a coevolution with primates being easily fed and angiosperms having their offspring being frequently and widely spread. These theories, while all unique, showcase how primates might have evolved, and gives us insight into our own evolution. Finally, past their evolution, let's talk about how they are now. Primates are split into two groups, monkeys and apes, monkeys being split into their own two unique groups, Old World and New World. There are a ton of similarities between these groups, but there are some very key distinctions between them. Starting off with apes. Apes do not have tails, are generally larger than monkeys with wider chests and less hair on their faces. Apes also travel differently, walking on all fours on the ground, occasionally walking on 2 feet or arm swinging. Ape populations are also less widespread than monkey populations, living in Africa and Asia nearly exclusively, mainly living in Africa. Apes also differ outside of their physical capabilities and dispersal. Behaviorally, apes have a larger brain-to-body ratio than monkeys, commonly showing higher levels of cognition and communication than monkeys. They can problem solve and create and use simple tools. Apes also have different bedtime routines from monkeys, with apes opting to make a nest instead of resting in trees. Now on to monkeys. Monkeys are smaller, more covered in hair, commonly have tails, and crawl on and through branches, leaping instead of swinging. They are also much more widespread, living in Asia, Africa, and both Americas, though they're not found in much of North America. In this group of monkeys, there's two subgroups, Old and New World monkeys. As their name suggests, Old World monkeys live in Africa and Asia, while New World monkeys live in the Americas. Old World monkeys are almost always larger than New World monkeys. They have downward-faced noses as opposed to the flat noses of New World monkeys. New World monkeys also do not have any fingernails and have different hand shapes. Behaviorally, Old World monkeys have a much wider range of habitat, live mostly on the ground, and have a tendency for single male, multi-female social groups with males rarely contributing. As opposed to Old World monkeys, New World monkeys have a small range of habitat, are more arboreal, and have a tendency for single male and multi-male social groups with contributing males. With all this information, none of you are probably curious about how we get it, but it's part of the rubric, so I'm doing it anyways. There are two main methods that researchers use to gather information and research primates: field and lab research. Many primate research centers will have colonies of primates in man-made enclosures to study them closer and study behaviors that aren't possible or typical to observe in the wild. For example, the Wisconsin National Primate Research Center houses 1,120 rhesus macaques, 221 common marmosets, and 245 cynomolgus macaques. Ape Initiative and other related U.S. research centers that mainly focus on bonobos house a total of 42 bonobos in the U.S., and various other research centers and zoos house other populations of apes and monkeys. Different centers will research various topics, such as more medical research like vaccines, regenerative medicines, chronic diseases, and neuroscience, as well as more behavioral topics, such as observing interactions with language, humans, and other primates. Centers such as Ape Initiative also use their apes to spread awareness for conservation, as well as educate both children and adults alike. There are various researchers dedicated to mainly lab research, such as Sue Savage-Rambaugh, a psychologist and primatologist known for her work with two bonobos, Kanzi and Panbanisha. Sue Savage-Rambaugh mostly focused on the bonobos' interaction with language, specifically in the form of lexicograms, symbols placed on innovative computer-based keyboards. Lexicograms were developed from the Lana Project, founded by Rambaugh. Currently, Ape Initiative, the last research center where Kanzi the bonobo was held, has over 400 lexigram symbols used by the bonobos to communicate with their caregivers. Bonobos such as Kanzi utilize this system to communicate effectively, giving extremely strong evidence to support the idea that apes can process and understand language. Moving on from lab research, the end is finally in sight. We can finally move on to field research. As the name suggests, field research is done in the field, or wild. Crazy, right? Anyways, researchers will find groups of apes or monkeys in their natural habitat and observe them for an extended period, trying to foster a neutral or good relationship with their selected groups so that they can observe the natural behaviors of the group. Having this neutral to amiable relationship with the group lets them observe much closer than normal. One of the most well-known field researchers and primatologists of all time is Jane Goodall. Goodall is known for her significant contributions to primatological field research, with her being the first documented researcher to follow the groups she was researching and interact with them. She set the standard for modern primatological field research and is still active in educating and inspiring young researchers, regardless of what field they're in. With that, that's about it. See ya.